Hello everyone, my name is Keith and welcome to the Solo Gamers Club. Tonight I'm going to investigate the 2011 board game Star Trek Fleet Captains from WizKids. I just checked this morning and the game is still available for purchase at Amazon. Star Trek Fleet Captains is a strategic board game that immerses players in the prime universe of Star Trek, spanning the lore of the TV series and films up to Star Trek Nemesis. Players command fleets from the iconic factions including the Federation, Klingon Empire, and with the expansions allowing players to include the Romulan Star Empire and the Dominion. Fortunately, I picked up the Romulan expansion and Dominion expansion when those were released back in, I think, 2013. But we're not going to be using those during this video. In the future, I'm going to be previewing my Star Trek Fleet Captains solitaire rules, and we'll see how this plays out in a future video. For right now, we're going to learn to play the base game, and it will have a game with the Federation versus the Klingons. Star Trek Fleet Captains offers a sandbox style of play with a rich blend of tactical maneuvering and thematic storytelling. In this video, we're going to explore the base game and learn how to set up and play the game. Out of the box, this is a 2 to 4 player game, but as I mentioned earlier, we're going to develop a set of solo rules for this, and I'll detail those in a future video. The base game comes with a 31-page rulebook. It's printed on glossy paper and has many examples of play included. How to set up the game and how to use the components. We begin the setup by randomizing our 50 location tiles in our deck. The location tiles will feature the areas of unexplored space that we have to encounter. In this case, this is an empty space. It says Space, the Final Frontier. Each of these will have some type of either empty space or a planet or a gas giant or something of that nature. And they'll always include an encounter value and a size. The encounter value, when we explore a new area of space, we have to make a die roll. And in this case, on a 1 or 2, we would have to draw and resolve an encounter card. The size is used when we're moving across the board. Our setup for the standard game, we begin by placing a location tile in the middle of the board. Then we lay 2 additional tiles to the left and right of the starting tile. Then we place an additional row of 6 tiles to the bottom and top of that initial row that we produced. And finally, we finish off by placing another 2 rows of 5 tiles each at the bottom and top to complete the layout. This is going to form our game board. Then both the Federation and the Klingons will take their command post tile. And that's going to be situated in this center portion of the map on each side of the display. We'll take a closer look at the command post. The command post display gives us a place for our fleet deployment zone, our victory pile where we'll keep our victory points, spaces for our mission deck and command decks, and for our 3 starting mission cards. We'll place the command posts along the center axis of our board that we just created. So we have our Federation command post on the left-hand side and the Klingon command post on the right-hand side. Next, we locate our mission deck console. This is going to be the location where we're going to keep all of our mission decks. Our mission decks come in 3 types: green science, yellow influence, and red combat. These are the green science missions, and each of those will offer a victory points if you can complete the text listed. We're going to shuffle these decks, separating them by type, and place them in the corresponding locations around the console. And we'll be drawing our mission cards from this location. Next, we locate our encounter deck console. With this console, we're going to place our encounter deck on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we're going to place any additional location tiles that we had left from our setup. The top of the display is the trash area. If a card is trashed, it will go into that location. Our next step is to muster our fleets. We're going to take the Federation ship deck and the Klingon ship deck. We'll shuffle those separately, and then we're going to start turning cards over. And we're going to be looking for a fleet size of 10. That is the base game. So we will turn over our first Federation ship tile, and that is the USS Enterprise, NCC 1701. That has a size of 6. So we're going to keep drawing cards until we can get a ship total of 10 points. That'll form our fleet. Next card is a size 5, and that is the USS Venture. Well, that's too much. That would be a total of 11 points. So we can't use that card. That will be temporarily put off to the side, and we'll keep drawing. This is a 4, and that's the USS Sutherland. That gives us a ship size of 10, and that will complete our draft for our Federation fleet. We take the remaining cards, and we're going to place them off to the side. We'll give that deck a shuffle, and that is going to form our reinforcement pool for the Federation. And now we're going to do the same for the Klingons. First ship is the IKS Garoth. That's size 3. We'll continue drawing until we get 10 points. This is the IKS Negvar. We have a total of 9. So we'll be looking for a ship of a value of 1. And we'll keep drawing until we get that. The Makta, that's size 5, that's too much. Size 2 for the Rotaran. Size 3, Kolthos. Size 4, Kronos 1. Size 5, the Bortas. IKS Samra, that's a size 1. We can keep that. That will form our total of 10 points. So we'll get these ships out for each of the sides. We'll form the Klingon reinforcement deck out of the remaining ships. Now the game comes with this handy diagram so that you can quickly locate the ships in the storage area in the tray. I've got our 2 Federation ships out here. We have the original USS Enterprise, size 6, and the USS Sutherland, size 4. Now you'll notice that these are a clicks system for the ships. All of the values listed on the card are also listed in the clicks area, and we simply rotate those to change the settings to whatever we choose to want to have them at. The settings to start the game out are broken into this white area of the display. That means they're undamaged. If they take a point of damage, they have to select one from the yellow area. And finally, if they take severe damage, they have to select a setting from the red area. In the game, whatever the HeroClix settings are will control. No matter how you mark your cards, the final controlling element will be how it's set on the HeroClix display. Now I'm going to use some of these tiny dice to mark my settings for each of the ships. But once again, whatever we have the setting on the HeroClix model, it will control its settings. So in case we bump this or something, that is going to control what the settings truly are. Each ship card will have the name and pennant number of the ship, along with its size and its weapons, sensors, engines, and shields settings. I'll let you have a look at the Klingon fleet. We have the IKS Garoth, IKS Samra, and IKS Negvar. And those are the starting settings that I've given for the Klingon ships. Each team will now place their starting ships in the fleet deployment zone at their command post. These are the Klingon vessels. And here are the Federation vessels. Next, each team is going to take their command cards. Command cards are divided into 10 decks of 10 cards each, and each of them have a certain topic to them. As an example, main engineering, flagship fleet deck, Captain Kirk deck, etc. We're going to draw 4 decks from these 10 decks. We're going to shuffle those together, and that will form our command deck. Now we're going to select these decks based upon the mission types indicated on our ship cards. Certain decks will work better with certain missions. As an example, if you have a heavy security deck, that will likely be more geared towards combat. Whereas if you had Strange New Worlds, that will probably be better for science. So examining our ship cards, we see that the USS Enterprise is going to provide us with 3 science missions, 2 influence missions, and 1 combat mission. Sutherland will have 1 science, 1 influence, and 2 combat. So we should select those subdecks based upon the missions that we're going to be expected to perform. Now when you're first starting out, it's hard to determine which of these subdecks will work best with the ships that you have. So we're going to try to do the best that we can. We know that we're going to have a total of 4 science missions, 3 influence missions, and 3 combat missions. So knowing that, I think I'm going to select the Captain Kirk deck, the Strange New Worlds deck, the Heavy Security deck, and the Main Engineering deck. These other cards will be placed back in the box. They won't be used during this game. So after selecting our 10 subdecks, we have a Federation command deck consisting of 40 cards. We're going to shuffle this, and we're going to place that on the right-hand side of our command post display. So we'll place that command deck in the area indicated on the display. For the Klingons, they have selected the Science of War deck, House of Martok deck, Battleship deck, and Imperial Expansion deck. We'll do the same as we did for the Federation. We're going to shuffle the 4 subdecks and form our command deck for the Klingons. And now we're going to receive our orders from Federation Command and the Klingon High Council. We're going to check each of our ships, and we're going to add up the total number of cards of each type. In the case of the Enterprise and the Sutherland, we have to draw 4 science, 3 influence, and 3 combat. So we're going to gather a total of 4 science missions, 3 influence missions, and 3 combat missions. We're going to take those cards, shuffle those, and place them in our mission deck area. So we're going to take that deck of mission cards, place them in the mission deck area. Then we're going to draw our first 3 missions to start the game. The Federation's first 3 missions are Militarization, Vengeance, and Planetary Expedition. One of these cards, Vengeance, is a secret mission. So if we were playing in a 2-player game, we would have that face down so the opponent can't see it. But since we're playing an example game, we'll keep those special secret missions face up. We place those at the bottom of our command post. You'll notice that each of these missions has a victory point value and the criteria we need in order to generate those victory points. In the example of militarization, we have to build a star base. That will net us 1 victory point. The Vengeance mission, the secret mission, destroy in battle an enemy ship that destroyed one of your ships, and that's worth 3 victory points. At the start of the game, nobody has destroyed any ships, so this might be a little difficult to complete. We might end up cycling that out of our total. Finally, we have Planetary Expedition. It's worth 1 victory point. Place and retrieve an away team on a habitable planet. You do not need to use the same ship to both place and retrieve the away team. All right, that's something that we may be able to accomplish. And so we place those 3 initial mission cards in their slots at the bottom of our command post display. We'll also do the same for the Klingons. Now the Klingons are going to begin with 2 science missions, So we'll take 2 science, a total of 3 influence, and a total of 5 combat missions. We'll take that mission deck, shuffle it, and place it in its appropriate space. Now the Klingon starting missions are Death Blow, Combined Attack, and Contact the Resistance. Death Blow, 1 victory point. It's a secret mission. Destroy 1 enemy ship in combat. Combined Attack. Use 2 ships to inflict at least 1 damage to 1 enemy ship using a cooperative attack action. And finally, for 2 victory points, we have a science mission, Contact the Resistance. Make a successful level 12 sensors test on 1 habitable planet your opponent controls that is closest to his command post. Determine distance by the size of all locations, using the movement rules. If there's a tie for the closest planet, you choose which planet to contact. All right. And that is the setup of the game. Next, we're going to go into looking at the components of the game and find out about what type of actions we can take during a turn. To win the game, a player must send out their ships into unexplored space and collect 10 victory points by completing missions and solving encounter cards. During a turn, the player may do the following. They may move each of their ships in their fleet. Each ship can make 1 power adjustment. We can take up to 3 actions. We can play command cards. We can cycle a mission card. And we can discard a command card. Now, in order to help myself keep track of whether the ships have done their power adjustment or moved, or if we have cycled any of the decks, I've created some tokens for myself that I'll be able to place on the ships and on the command and mission decks to make sure we account for any of the steps that we take during a turn. We'll begin by investigating how the ships work. Each ship is named and has a size ranging from 1 to 6. The ship size will be used in resolving breakaway and evasion tests. Below its name, most ships will have a special ability, which lists its special capabilities. In the case of the Enterprise, it has the 9 lives ability. Below its special abilities are the ship's statistics for weapons, sensors, engines, and shields. The game uses a clicks system that offers different power configurations for each vessel. These are delineated on the ship card. If a ship is undamaged, it can select any setting in the white area. When a ship takes 1 point of damage, it's limited to the yellow alert settings. If a ship takes 2 points of damage, which means it's severely damaged, it's limited to, in this case, 3 red settings. And finally, if it takes an additional point of damage, the ship will be destroyed. During a turn, each ship can make 1 power adjustment. The power adjustment can be made at any time during your turn, even if it interrupts another action or encounter, but doing so would end a ship's movement. System ratings for weapons, sensors, engines, and shields are used in performing system tests. The results of a system test are compared to the test level, and if the result is equal to or greater than the result, the test is passed. If a system is disabled, indicated with a D in the value, the test automatically fails. Some system tests are opposed tests. This pits the system of one ship against the system of another. For example, during combat, the aggressor would pit his weapons against his target's shields. Friendly ships can cooperate to make an opposed system test by spending 1 action each. In this way, 2 smaller ships might combine their efforts to defeat a larger, more powerful ship. Each turn, a player can take up to 3 actions. Generally, each ship can only take 1 action per turn, and these actions include Cloaking actions, where we would engage our cloaking devices to make the ship undetectable. Combat actions, where we would be attacking opposing starships. Influence actions, where we'll attempt to take control of locations and build installations. Reinforcement actions, we would replace lost ships in our fleet. Repair actions, where we can remove damage from a ship at a friendly installation. Scan actions, where we can examine unexplored tiles. Transporter actions, where we can move crew or cargo between ships and planets. And finally, system tests, and when they're voluntary, such as when completing a mission. For this game, the Federation will be using the blue dice, and the Klingons will be using the red. To begin the game, we're going to determine who the first player will be. So each side is going to roll a die. High roller will have the first player. Now, as the first player has an advantage by moving first, when they achieve 10 victory points, the opponent has one final turn to try to achieve 10 or more victory points. If the opponent that is not moving first gets their 10 victory points, they will win automatically. So the first player is both an advantage and a disadvantage. So we'll make a roll and see who has the first action. In this case, it will be the Federation. They have a 5, Klingons have a 4, so the Federation will be taking their actions first. Alright, so the Federation is going to begin, and we'll teach the game as we play. I think that's probably the easiest way to show how the game works. The first step that we'd want to do is take a look at the 3 missions we have available to us and see which of those we'll be able to complete under the current board situation. Now we have this one card called Vengeance. That's a secret mission. It says destroy in battle an enemy ship that has destroyed one of your ships. So at present, that mission cannot be completed. So I think we'd probably be best served to cycle that mission out of the deck. So what we do is we take that card that we don't want. We can do one of these per turn. Place that at the bottom of our mission deck, and then we can draw a replacement. And in this case, we've got establish a hold. Condition, control 4 adjacent locations. That's worth 1 victory point. That's something we probably could accomplish. So we're going to take a deck cycled marker and place that on the mission deck to let us know that we have cycled that deck during this turn. You can only do that once per turn. Now we have to draw our starting cards from our command deck. We always have a hand of 4 cards. If we use a card, it will be played, and then we can draw a replacement. So let's see what our 4 Federation command cards are. So our starting 4 cards from our command deck include Dr. Leonard McCoy, Battle Challenge, Tasha Yar, and Modified Torpedo. 2 of the cards are crew cards. Dr. Leonard McCoy and Tasha Yar have a crew capability. We can immediately assign them to 1 or 2 ships if we choose to. They also have other capabilities. In the case of Dr. McCoy, he has an operations ability, Interrupt. If this ship takes damage, reduce the amount of damage taken by 1. This card cannot repair any damage, only prevent it. When you use a card for its ops, that card is removed from play generally. We have combat cards in the case of Battle Challenge. During combat, as the target, if this ship is facing more than 1 attacker, your opponent must remove 1 of his ships from combat or give 1 of his ships a permanent -2 weapons token. In the case of Modified Torpedo, provided that we have a sensor level of at least 1, that can gain us +4 to our weapons. It can also be used as an ops card. It says Interrupt. As long as weapons are at level 1, we can get plus 4 to sensors. That's how those cards will work. I think what we'll do is we're going to assign probably Dr. McCoy and Tasha Yar to our ships. Now you'll notice that each of them have a listing. Dr. McCoy is a specialist and Tasha Yar is an officer. Each ship can have a captain, an officer, a specialist, and an engineer. So I'm going to assign Dr. McCoy to the Enterprise, and I think we'll assign Tasha Yar to the Sutherland. While they're assigned, their officer or specialist ability in this case is active, and you can use that as many times as that requirement is available. But once we use it for an interrupt or a combat, the card is discarded. So now that we've used some of our command cards, we can replace them with, to get our hand up to 4 points. We have Hikaru Sulu and All Power to the Shields. Now in the case of Sulu, he can be used either as an officer or as a captain. And I think we're going to place Sulu as an officer, as a captain on board the Sutherland. So he'll take his position as captain of the Sutherland and allow us to draw another card. This one is level 1 diagnostics. Power adjustment. Until the ship's next power adjustment, it receives +8 sensors and -2 in all other systems. Okay. So we'll keep these cards in our hand and we can play them at the appropriate times to help modify any of our tests. So taking into account the missions that we have available to us, we have militarization, build a star base, establish a hold, where we have to have control of 4 adjacent locations. And finally, planetary expedition, place and retrieve an away team on a habitable planet. So we need to find some planets and to explore some of this unknown space. So we'll start out with a move action. Now, movement in the game is directly tied to your engine status. In the case of the USS Sutherland, we currently have an engine value of 9. That's our current settings. Now we can adjust that, but once we start moving, if we make an adjustment to our power settings, the movement must end. So I'll begin with a movement action utilizing the Sutherland. And we're going to order the Sutherland to explore this location. Now we could have taken a scan action. We would have used one of our 3 actions that we have available to us, and we could have done a scan action on that location that would tell us what's in the area, and we'd be able to reveal it to ourselves, but not to the Klingons. But in this case, I'm going to take a chance and we're just going to move into that unexplored space. It costs 1 movement point to move into an unexplored location from your command post. So we'll flip over that location and see what is there. And in this case, it is a Class 17 nebula. Weapons there will be -2 in this location. It has an encounter value of a 1 to 2 and a size of 5. So we will flip that over, move the Sutherland into that location. And now we're going to have to make a roll to see if there's an encounter there. This location has an encounter value of 1 to 2, so we'll make a die roll and see if we have an encounter at this Class 17 nebula. Result is a 4, so we have no encounter. Now we've spent a total of 1 of our movement points out of the total 9 for our engine value. So in order to cross this location, we need to spend 5 points. That's the size of that region of space. So we have enough to do that. And I think we're going to try to investigate this location. So we're going to pay the 5 movement points plus the 1 that we used to move in there. And we're going to move into that location and see what's there. And this time we found a stable wormhole. Any ship may move from this location to another stable wormhole location as if it were an adjacent tile. Encounter range of 1 to 4 and has a size of 3. So we'll place that there. Ship is now into that location. And we'll make our encounter roll. So here is our encounter roll. We've rolled a 5, so we have no encounter, and we can continue moving if we have movement points available. Now, if we had an encounter, our movement has to come to a conclusion. So we've spent a total now of 1 movement point to enter the Class 17 nebula. We spent 5 to cross that region into the stable wormhole region. So we've used a total of 6 movement points so far. If we want to cross this stable wormhole, we'll have to spend an additional 3. Our engines are at 9, so we have enough to do it. And I think we're going to move into this location right here, and we'll see what's there. And that location consists of a Class M planet. Star is K-type. Status habitable. Installations at this location require 1 less control token to build. Has an encounter value of 1 to 3 and a size of 3. So we've entered that region. That's all of our movement points now. And we'll have to make a roll for an encounter. And we'll have an encounter on a roll of 1 or 2. Here's the roll. The result is a 3. So we have no encounter. But we've exhausted all of the movement now for the USS Sutherland. So I'm going to place a moved token on the Sutherland to indicate that we have moved the ship. It can only move once per turn. Now, as this is a habitable planet, one of our missions is planetary expedition. Place and retrieve an away team token on a habitable planet. You do not need to use the same ship to both place and retrieve the away team. So I think we'll do that. We're going to use one of our 3 action tokens, and we're going to place an away team on this Class M planet. And so we'll place an away team on that planet. And by the way, placing that away team on that planet is considered to be a transporter action. I think we'll start getting the Enterprise into action. Enterprise currently has a movement value, I should say an engine value of 10. So it's got up to 10 movement points. We're going to spend 1 of those to move into that location. And that location is revealed to be a Class J nebula. Shields are +4 in that location. We're going to have an encounter on a roll of 1 or 2, and it has a size of 6. Now, when you discover a region, you always place it facing your command post, as we've done with these 4 regions that we've explored. That can become important later in the game. So the Enterprise for 1 point has entered the Class J nebula, and now we're going to make a roll to see if we have an encounter. And here's the roll. Result is a 1. So we are going to have an encounter, and we'll be drawing the top card from the Encounters deck. Now, as we have drawn an encounter, our movement will have to come to a conclusion. Even if we have extra engine capability left, we're spending time attempting to resolve this encounter. And this one is entitled Alternate Reality. It has a victory point value of 0. And that reads, a conjunction with an alternate dimension radically alters the composition of your fleet. Exchange this ship for another ship from your reinforcements pool of the same or nearest similar size. If no such ships are available, then nothing happens. Set the new ship's alert status to the same alert status as this old ship. Any crew cards from the old ship are reassigned to the new. The new ship may not move this turn, but may be able to take actions if the ship it replaced has not already taken an action this turn, and then discard the card. All right. Well, the Enterprise has a size of 6. There are no other ships in our reinforcement pool that have a value of 6. So we're simply going to discard the card. And I think for our action, we're going to use our action, and we're going to place a control marker in that Class J nebula. It'll be an influence action. So we'll place a Federation control marker there. Now, the more control markers that we place in an area, the more secure it is for our faction. Not to mention, there are certain minimums that we need if we want to build installations in an area. The 3 installation types that we can construct are an outpost that requires 1 influence token. No previous installation is required. It has 0 shields, but it does offer us the ability to repair. The next size is the colony. That takes 2 control markers. And we have to have an outpost present already. It has a shield ability of 15, and that also offers repair facilities. Finally, the highest one is the starbase. That requires 3 control markers. We have to have a colony present already, and it has a shield ability of 30. And that has improved repairs and will also offer us a victory point. So, for us to build an installation there, in the case we have this militarization card that says build a starbase. That's worth a victory point on top of the point that we would gain for building the starbase. So that's probably something that we want to try to do. We'll need some more control markers there, and we'll need to start building facilities in that location. All right. Now the Federation has 3 action tokens, but we only have 2 ships. And unless we have a command card that would allow us to play an extra action on a ship, that other action is going to be wasted. A ship can only take 1 action per turn unless a command card allows it to do so, or if it has a special ability that allows it to do so. At this time, the Federation does not have a command card that will allow them to take that extra, to take a multiple action with the same ship. So that action will be wasted. So that's going to complete the turn for the Federation. We're going to do some cleanup now. We're going to recover our action tokens and any deck cycled or moved tokens that we've placed on our ships. And we'll be prepared for the next turn, but now it's the Klingons' turn. Now the Klingons will take their turn. They have 3 actions, just as we did. And we'll take a look at their mission cards and see if we need to cycle any of them, if any of them would be too difficult to complete at this early part of the game. Well, at the current position in the board, we have 2 combat missions. In order to do a combat mission with the Federation, we need to be in closer proximity to them, obviously. So I think we are going to cycle one of our missions. So we're going to cycle, I think, this science mission. Science mission is worth 2 victory points, but we have to make a level 12 sensors test on a habitable planet that the opponent controls. So we're still quite a ways from being able to complete that. So we're going to place this at the bottom of the mission deck, and we're going to draw fresh mission. And we end up getting Mutiny. Take control of a location with an outpost built by your opponent. That's worth 1 victory point. So we'll place that there, and we'll mark their mission deck as deck cycled. And I guess the Klingons will now start exploring some of that unknown space in front of their command post. And I think they're going to begin with the IKS Goroth. And we're going to do a move action with them. The Goroth has a current speed configuration engines of 4. So we're going to use 1 movement point, and we're going to investigate that location there. And we'll see what they have discovered in this location. And that is empty space. Space, the final frontier. Encounter of 1 to 3 with a size of 3. So we're going to face that now towards the Klingon display, letting us know that they were the first to discover that location. So the Klingon IKS Goroth has moved into that location. We'll have to roll for an encounter. On a 1 to 3, they will have an encounter. And here's their encounter roll. And they've rolled a 4, so they have no encounter. They can continue moving if they have the movement points available. And they do. The Garoth currently has a engines level of 4. They've spent 1 to move into this space. They're going to spend 3 more to cross this space and enter into this location. So they're going to be moving into this location. That'll spend all of their available engine power. We'll see what they have uncovered here. And they've got another empty space. Size of 4, encounter value of 1 to 3. So we align it with the Klingon command post. Garoth moves into that empty space, and we'll have to roll for another encounter. So we'll make the roll. On a 1 to 3, we'll have an encounter. They've rolled a 2, so they have an encounter in that empty space location. They've drawn the encounter. Temporal anomaly has 1 victory point. Your ship is in danger of being trapped in an unstable temporal anomaly. Attempt a level 12 sensors test. If you succeed, add this card to your victory pile. If you fail, your turn ends immediately, and you must discard this card. All right. Well, right now, the Garoth has a sensors rating of 5, and that's its highest value. So we need to get a total of 12 or more on a sensors test. And we'll see what kind of command cards that the Klingons have in their hand. Well, the only card that would be applicable to this would be this emergency power card. Interrupt +2 to any system. So we'd be able to add +2 to our sensors system, and I think we will do that. So we're going to perform a systems check. In this case, it's going to be a sensors check. Our current sensors on the Garoth are 5. So we've got a total of 5 right now. We're going to be able to play any cards or use any crew that we have on board the ship. We have no crew, but we are going to play this emergency power card. And that's going to allow us to gain +2 to the roll. We're also going to gain a dice roll. So we have 5 plus 2 is 7. And now we're going to make a die roll. Here's the roll. We've rolled a 1. So they've failed that. They needed to get a total of 12 or greater on the sensors test, and they didn't do that. So in this case, it says if you fail, your turn ends immediately, and you must discard this card. So the Garoth is temporarily caught in this temporal anomaly. The card will be discarded, and the turn for the Garoth will end. We've placed the command card that we played, the emergency power card, in the discard. Klingons will now draw a replacement command card for the one that they played, and in this case they've got disruptors. All right, we'll add that to their list of cards, and that finishes the turn for the Garoth. We'll mark that as moved. Now I've just noticed on the IKS Garoth it says trouble at the beginning of the game. Not when the Garoth is a reinforcement. Take the Tribbles encounter out of the encounter deck and shuffle it into your command deck. If Tribbles is in your hand, you may spend an action to play it on an enemy ship in Garoth's location without requiring a transporter action. So I should have done that at setup, but we're going to take care of that right now. So we've got the Tribbles encounter card, and we're going to shuffle that into our command deck as listed in the IKS Garoth Trouble special ability. All right, so we shuffled that Tribbles card into the command deck for the Klingons. We'll move on to another activation, probably the Samra. We'll have them move. So we're going to, I think, have the Samra make a movement into this region. So we'll have him attempt to move there. That's going to cost us 1 movement point. The Samra currently has an engine value of 3. And it has discovered empty space once again. Size of 4 with an encounter value of 1 to 2. So we'll place that facing the Klingon command post. The Samra will move into that location and we'll make an encounter roll. Here's the Samra's encounter roll. They've rolled a 4, so they have no encounter. All right. Now the Samra only has an engine value of 3. We could do a power adjustment, but that's going to end our movement regardless. So I think what we'll do is we're going to have the Samra take one action in that space, and they're going to place a control marker there. They'll do an influence action. So the Samra has taken its action. We'll give them a control marker there. And what they're hoping to do is to get future missions that will say control 3 consecutive locations or whatever. But that is the action that they're going to take, an influence action. Next up, we have the IKS Negvar. It's a battleship. The Negvar has an engine setting of 9 currently, so it is going to, I think, move into this unexplored location. They'll spend a movement point there, and we'll see what is in that location. This time they have found, once again, empty space. Encounter value 1 to 2, size of 3. All right, so the Negvar has entered that location, and now we have to make an encounter roll. And here's the Negvar's encounter roll. Result is a 5, so they have no encounter, and they can continue moving if they choose. They're going to spend another 3 points to cross this empty space. It'll be a total of 4 movement points, and they're going to move into this location. We'll see what they've got there. In this case, it's a Class 9 Nebula. -2 to sensors, size of 7, and an encounter of 1 to 2. We'll place that facing the Klingon command post, and we'll make an encounter roll. So the Negvar has entered that location, and we will make an encounter roll for them. The result is a 3. They have no encounter. All right. Now the Negvar has a engines level of 9 currently. They've already spent 1 to enter this space and 3 to cross that space into the Class 9 Nebula. This has a size of 7, so they won't be able to proceed any further. And I think the Negvar is going to take an action, and we will use one of their action tokens, place an action on the Negvar, and they're going to do an influence action. So they will place a control marker there, and that is going to be the completion of their turn. We'll do some cleanup now, where we're going to recover our action tokens and any deck cycled, moved, or power adjustment tokens. And that is going to complete the Klingon turn. Klingons currently have 2 control markers out on the map, and they've explored a total of 5 locations. And I think before the Klingons are going to end their turn, they're going to cycle this sensor hack card, and we'll see if we can get them to get a card that's a little bit more useful. So that will be discarded, and we'll draw a fresh card there, and they have drawn Base Upgrade. All right. And now we return to the Federation's turn, and they can start taking actions and continue exploring the galaxy. All right, the Federation is up next. We have 3 actions. I'm going to begin by cycling 1 card from my command deck. I'm going to cycle the Battle Challenge, and we'll draw a new card in its place. And we draw the card, Yellow Alert. All right, we'll add that to our hand, and then we'll mark that that deck has been cycled. I'm going to begin with the Enterprise. Enterprise is going to take an action, and they're going to construct, using an influence action, an outpost. That'll be our first step in trying to fulfill our card Build 1 Starbase. All right, so the Enterprise has taken its action, and they're going to do a move now. They'll spend 1 movement point and attempt to move into this location. And they have found a Class 11 nebula, -4 to weapons, an encounter on 1 to 2 with a size of 6. So the Enterprise has entered that location. We'll make a roll for encounter. Here's the Enterprise's encounter roll. Result is a 6, no encounter. All right. Enterprise's engines are currently at 10, so I think what they'll do is they've already spent 1. They're going to spend 6 to cross the Class 11 nebula, and they're going to enter this location. And they find a Class J planet, star D-type, status uninhabitable. Encounter on 1 to 2, size of 7. All right, so we've entered that location. We'll roll for a encounter. The result is a 5. There's no encounter. All right, that's going to end the Enterprise's movement. We'll mark them with a moved counter on their ship card. Next is the Sutherland. The Sutherland is going to take an action, and they are going to use a transporter action to beam up the away team that they laid there the last time. And that is going to complete this planetary expedition card. Place and retrieve an away team token on a habitable planet. You do not need to use the same ship to both place and retrieve the away team. That's worth a victory point. We place that in our victory point pile, and that is the first victory point earned. Now the Sutherland will move, and they're going to spend a movement point to enter this location here. And they find Dark Matter Nebula, -2 to engines, encounter on a 1 with a size of 8. All right. We'll roll for an encounter there. This time it's only on a 1. Result is a 6, no encounter. All right, the Sutherland has spent 1 movement point. They're going to spend 8 to cross this nebula, and they will enter into this location, and they find Class H planet. It's a K-type planet. It is habitable. Installations at this location require 3 additional control tokens to build. Okay, it's an encounter of 1 to 2, and it has a size of 6. So we'll make an encounter roll there and see what happens. Roll to 3. There's no encounter. All right, we're going to make the mark the Sutherland as moved, and I think the Sutherland, since it is in proximity to that Klingon vessel, we're going to make a change to its power settings, and I think we'll bump up their shields a little bit. So I'm going to adjust it so that their shields will go up to 10. So we will do that. All right, so we've adjusted their power settings, so we have a shields value of 10 now. And incidentally, as we have completed that mission, I forgot we have to draw another one, and our new mission is 0 losses, secret mission. Condition: if your victory point total is less than 3 points away from the victory goal for this game, you have not lost a single ship, this mission is complete. 2 victory points. Well, that's going to be a while before we'll be able to complete that. I think I'm going to cycle that 0 losses mission, and we'll put that at the bottom of the deck and draw a new one. This time we get rescue mission. When this mission is revealed, your opponent places 1 of your away team tokens that is not already in play on a habitable planet that you did not explore. You must retrieve this token in order to complete this mission. If no habitable planet has been explored, discard this mission. Well, let's see if there are any that we have not explored. I don't believe so. No, there are not, so that is going to be discarded. We'll have to draw another card. Our next mission is Show of Force. All of your opponent's ships must be in either yellow or red alert status. You receive 1 victory point for each active ship in your opponent's fleet when this mission is completed. Well, that's going to be a little tough. All right, well, so we have cycled our mission deck, and that will end the turn for the Federation. We'll do our cleanup and move on to the Klingons. right, I think the Klingons are going to begin by cycling one of their missions. And I think they're going to cycle this mutiny card. And we will draw another one. And this time we've got Defectors. When you reveal this mission, your opponent places one of your away team tokens that is not already in play on any of its ships as cargo. If you successfully transport them using transporter action to your ship, you complete this mission. Your opponent cannot remove the away team token from the ship. It's worth 2 victory points. All right, well, we'll see where the Federation is going to place that away team. And I think the Federation is going to place that on the Enterprise, so that is going to be considered cargo on the USS Enterprise. All right. We'll mark their mission deck as cycled since we've done that. And now let's take a look at their command cards. All right, the Klingons, I think, are going to keep the command cards they have for the moment, and we're going to activate the IKS Negvar, and it is going to attempt to move into this location. So it will spend one of its 9 movement points, and it has found a Class T planet. Star type is A-type. It is uninhabitable, and there will be encounter on a 1, size of 8. Okay, so they have entered that location. We'll have to roll for an encounter. And we'll see if they can encounter something there. The roll is a 2, so there's no encounter. And I think the Negvar is going to spend all of its remaining movement points. We spent 1 to enter here. We'll spend 8 to cross it, and we'll move into this location. And let's see what's there. Empty space. Okay, there will be an encounter on a 1 to 3. And that has a size of 3. So that's going to end the Negvar's movement. They rolled a 5, so there is no encounter. All right. So we've marked the Negvar as moved, and we'll move on to one of our other ships. All right, the Klingons are going to activate the Samra for movement. They'll spend a movement point to investigate this location. They find a Class L planet. Star is G-type. It is habitable. Encounters on 1 to 3 with a size of 3. All right, so they have found a habitable planet. Samra will make its encounter roll. Roll to 5. There is no encounter. All right. All right, that's going to bring the Samra's movement to a close. It only had 3 movement points. It spent 1, and that system would cost 3 to cross. So we'll mark the Samra as moved. Samra is going to take an action, and they are going to place a control marker in that location. They'll take an influence action. So we'll place that token there. And now I think we'll move on to the IKS Goroth. All right, the Goroth is going to spend a movement point, and they're going to see what's in this location. And here they find a Class M planet, G-type star. Habitable installations at this location require 1 less control token to build. Size of 4, encounter on a 1 or 2. All right, so the Goroth enters the system. We'll roll for an encounter. Looking for a 1 or 2 for an encounter. They have a 1, so there will be an encounter. All right, the encounter reads Dead Colony, 0 victory points. You have found an old colony that is no longer inhabited. Perhaps it will make a suitable base. Place a colony token on this location and discard this card. This colony can be in any location, even if there is no habitable planets, and it may be upgraded normally. All right, so the encounter is going to end their move, but they're going to place a colony there. So the Klingons will place a colony. And I think what they'll also do is use one of their action tokens. And they're going to place a control marker there with an influence action. All right. That was a great find for the Klingons. So the Goroth's movement has come to a close, and we've used 2 of our 3 actions. We have 1 action left, and we could use that on the Negvar, and I think they will do so. The Negvar will take an action, and they'll use an influence action, and they're going to place a control marker on that empty space that they just discovered. All right. So we'll clean up our tokens for the Klingons, and their turn will come to an end. And so that's how the game plays. There are some other things that I'm going to show you, but I'm going to suspend the playthrough at this point, and we're just going to basically talk about the game, and I'll show you how cloaking works and combat works, and then I'll give you a short preview of what I'm proposing for my solitaire rules. As you can see, this game very much captures the theme and the proper feel of the Star Trek universe. Between the encounters and the mission cards that you have your crew members and the ships, and everything just comes together very well, and it plays out. It makes you feel like you're in a Star Trek universe. There's no doubt about that. So I'll demonstrate now how a cloaking action would work. We'll use the IKS Garoth as our example. I'll bring up the Garoth's card on the screen, and you'll see that there are 3 blue bands listed on the card. As an action, a ship with cloaking capability can use that action to cloak. What we would do is we would automatically set its click for the blue band in the undamaged area of the Garoth's card. In this case, we have 8 engines, and the other 3 categories are listed as C, meaning cloaked. When a ship is cloaked, we remove the model from the map, and we place a cloak token of the same number in that location. These cloak tokens have, in this case, cloak 1 and cloak 1. Well, we're going to place that cloak marker on the tile, and then this one will be placed on the Garoth's card. While a ship is cloaked, it cannot be the target of an attack. It does not need to make breakaway rolls or evasion rolls. It may not be the target of any systems test other than and except a scan action where an enemy ship is attempting to reveal a cloaked ship. It does not explore new locations when it moves. So what will happen is the ship is cloaked. We can move this token now up to the movement value of any of our ships. So as an example, it could move through known space back to, say, the command post, or it could enter an unexplored location. But when it's cloaked, it cannot explore that location. It can just move through it, and that would end its movement at that point. Now, in a future action, we could take another cloaking action and place an echo token down. And what will happen is this would be placed as on its cloak side. The opponent does not know which of those tokens are the cloaked ship. So we would be able to move these tokens around the board, and the Federation in this case does not know where the actual location of the ship is. So that creates quite a bit of mystery during gameplay. Now, a cloaked ship can decloak by simply making a power adjustment. It would power adjust from its cloaked position into one of the selectable configurations for that status of the ship. Now remember that even though echoes can move as fast as their fastest cloaked ship, each actual cloaked ship can still only move its own top speed. So if a player is attempting to hide a slow ship, he shouldn't move an echo faster than that ship could go. Now we'll take a look at how combat might work. We'll say that the IKS Garoth moves into this location, and they are going to use one of their actions to institute a combat action against the Sutherland. All right. Now at this time, the Garoth could make a power adjustment. We'll say that it needed to bring its phaser capability, its weapons ability, up to max. So we'll say it makes a power adjustment, and its new adjustment now is going to be 7546. That'll be the column that it is power settings are set on right now. In this case, the Garoth is the aggressor and the Sutherland is the target. Beginning with the aggressor, they can play one command card if they choose. So in the case of the Klingons, we'll see what command card they might play. So the Klingons, they're going to play this photon torpedo card. That's going to give them +3 to their weapons. They'll play that face down, so the Federation doesn't know what card they're playing. Now, the Federation has the option to play a command card as well. So during this test, we're going to be testing the total combat strength of the Klingon vessel using their weapons ability, and we're going to test that against the Sutherland's shields ability. In this case, the Federation is going to play the card Yellow Alert. They're going to use that for its combat ability. That would be +2 to shields. So they would place that face down. Then those cards will be revealed. In this case, Klingons have a +3 to their weapons, and the Federation has a +2 to their shields. We're going to take into account any crew cards that are on board. In the case of the Federation, we have Captain Sulu. He is going to be +2 to shields. Examining the Sutherland's current settings, they have a shield level of 10 right now. And those totals will be modified with a die roll, and then we will add up the totals and see what we get. So here's the rolls. All right, the Federation has a 6. Klingons have a 2. So we'll add up the totals. We have the Garoth's weapons value of 7, +2 is 9, +3 for the photon torpedo is 12. For the Federation, they have their shields on the Sutherland at 10. They've rolled a 6, that's 16. They gain 2 for shields for Yellow Alert, and they also gain +2 shields for Captain Sulu. So, in this case, the Klingon attack was less than the shield total for the Federation. In that case, no damage is taken by the Federation. Now, we'll say for an example that the Klingon total was greater than the Federation total. In this case, the Sutherland would be damaged, and they would be forced to take their clicks settings and set it to a listing in the Yellow Alert area. So they could select any setting that they choose to in the Yellow Alert portion of their clicks area. Now, if the total Klingon attack is 2 times or greater than what the shield value for the ship would have been, it would have taken an extra point of damage. That would have moved it from undamaged through Yellow Alert down to Red Alert. And then that would force the Sutherland to have to make its settings into the red area of the clicks area. Now, if the aggressor's weapon test is triple the target's shield test, the target would take 3 points of damage. And in most cases, that's going to destroy the target. Although there are cards that can be played to prevent that. That's how a combat would generally play out. There are also modifiers. Occasionally, some of the ships can have made improvements to some of their ship capabilities. They might have a +1 to weapons token, as an example. Say the Garoth had this +1 weapons token. That would also be added in to the dice roll total, to their weapons total, and then to the one command card that they could have played. Not to mention any crew members that are present on the ship. Now, another situation that can occur is when two opposing ships are in the same location. If you want to move away to leave a location, say if this Klingon vessel wanted to leave the location that it's in with the Sutherland, it has to attempt a breakaway, and that applies to any uncloaked ship that would begin in a location occupied by an uncloaked enemy ship. In this case, each side is going to roll a die, and they're going to add their ship size to that total. If the ship attempting the breakaway, if their total is equal to or higher than the opponent's total, the ship can move normally. If not, you can still move, but the opposing ship can make a free attack on you as you are attempting your breakaway. So that's how that would work. In a similar situation is an evasion, and that is, as an example, say we wanted to move through a location to get to another location, but that location has an enemy ship in there. You would move into that space, intending to move through the location, and we would attempt that combined test once again. We would do it in the same way as we did a breakaway roll, but if the evasion is failed, the movement must end, but the opponent does not get a free attack on the ship. That is the difference. And that pretty much covers most of the rules. There's going to be some that we haven't discussed yet, but I think we will pick that up when we get to our solitaire playthrough in the future. And I think what I'm going to do now is transition from this example of play to give you just a heads up as to what I'm proposing for the solitaire rules. What I'm proposing for the solitaire rules is going to be quite a bit different from a standard game. We're only going to be setting up our command post. We're going to have one ship to control. We can choose any one we want, but the ship size is going to have an effect on the amount of victory points that we're going to have to earn in order to win the game. If we have a very large ship, we're going to need extra victory points in order to win. If we're going to be starting out with a smaller ship, won't require as many victory points. We start out with the command post, the mission deck, and our command deck, and 3 location cards adjacent to the command post. And I'm going to read you what the tactical situation is that I've come up with. You have been appointed to your first command, and Starfleet has assigned your vessel to the most dangerous starbase in the Federation. It lies on the frontier of a vast region of unexplored space where the Federation, the Klingon Empire, the Romulan Star Empire, and the Dominion are attempting to expand their power and influence. Lead your starship into the unexplored quadrant and earn victory points while containing the enemies of the Federation. And that's going to be the premise for how the game will play out. All of the standard rules are going to be in place. We're going to be using our vessel to explore this quadrant, and there'll be tables that we're going to be rolling on to see what encounters we're going to have, if any, with either the Klingons, Romulans, or Dominion forces. And so what will happen is, after we've explored the first 3 locations opposite of our command post, we're simply going to be drawing the locations from the deck of cards rather than having them prearranged at the start of the game. That will be one difference. And the game is intended to play just as it does in the standard rules. I have tables here that we're going to use to determine the game duration, or we can select it anywhere from a very short game requiring 8 victory points up to a long game that would require 15 victory points. And we have to accomplish those, gain those victory points in a set amount of turns. Now what will happen in the game as we explore these locations, following determining whether there will be an encounter in the space, we're going to be rolling versus a table called Faction Activity Table. And that will tell us if the location that we're in shows any signs of evidence that any of the 3 factions have been there. Now those rolls will not take place on any of the 3 tiles that are adjacent to the command post. In the rule set, I have it that as a part of the Organian Peace Treaty, each side has a buffer zone of 3 areas of space where the other opponents cannot enter. After we've explored these 3 and we attempt to move into a location that is not adjacent to the command post, that's when we're going to start making those faction activity rolls to see if there are enemy activity in the space in addition to the encounters. And that's a basic overview of what I'm working on right now. And in our next video on the Star Trek Fleet Captains, I will preview the rules that I've just outlined here. So I hope you enjoyed this look at Star Trek Fleet Captains. I think it's anyone that is a fan of Star Trek would immediately be, I think, absorbed into all of the thematic elements that are included in the game. I enjoy very much the exploration aspects of the game by turning over those location deck tiles, not to mention the very well-written encounter cards in the encounter deck. All of that put together with the functionality of each of the ships being slightly different, asymmetrical, including in the cloaking abilities and combat and sensor tests, makes the game feel like you're in an episode of the original series. So thanks for tuning in to the Solo Gamers Club. This is Keith signing off and wishing everyone a pleasant evening. Good night.